Here in Seattle, what we have seen at Amazon and at Microsoft and more recently at companies like MotherDuck and Fixie is that we know how to build global companies from here, from this base of talent, this base of imagination in the Pacific Northwest. I found that very compatible with the way I think about innovation.
Welcome to Founded and Funded. I'm Coral Garnick-Duckin, the digital editor here at Madrona. Today I've got the pleasure of interviewing Madrona Partner Jon Turow for the latest in our Investor Spotlight mini-series. Welcome, Jon.
Hi, Coral.
So these Investor Spotlight discussions are all about diving into what drives our investors and what they look for in founders. First, a little bit more background on you, Jon. You joined Madrona in 2022, coming from Amazon, where you most recently led the product teams for AWS Computer Vision AI services. You launched more than 5 new services and countless features in AI, ML, edge computing, IoT, and messaging during your time at Amazon. And you're listed as an inventor on multiple AWS AI, distributed systems, and IoT patent filings. You had been at Amazon for 9.5 years. What made you decide to leave the product side of things and get into VC and working with founders?
The thing that really excited me about my time at AWS was the explosive growth and opportunity in almost every direction. You can see within that time, almost 10 years, I did something new every 2 to 3 years, typically in 0 to 1, turning a blank sheet of paper into a really exciting product and a really exciting business for our customers. So that kind of curiosity has been something that I've always loved to do. I was a founder before Amazon, and it's been really exciting for me for a long time. What I learned is that as part of building, I love developing the high bandwidth connection with other builders and with deep engineers, deep scientists, designers, go-to-market leaders, and more to dream together and synthesize a plan and make the future happen faster. And so looking around the world in 2020, as the world was kind of rebooting, my curiosity told me there's a time to get an even bigger vantage, even broader view.
So when you were kind of evaluating that space and what you wanted to do there, what led you to Madrona?
Well, as it was time to look for new things, the default obvious thing would have been for me to go build something new. And most of the things I looked at, all of the things except for one, were in that category. So only one investor actually was in my consideration set, and that was Madrona. Here in Seattle, what we have seen at Amazon and at Microsoft and more recently at companies like MotherDuck and Fixie is that we know how to build global companies from here, from this base of talent, this base of imagination in the Pacific Northwest. I found that very compatible with the way I think about innovation.
And so right now, of course, everyone is talking about large language models, generative AI, things like ChatGPT and the new Microsoft 365 Copilot, GPT-4, of course. But where did you see opportunity for startups specifically, and especially in this quickly moving space?
I'll say something broad enough that I'll look silly in a while if I'm wrong. So maybe that'll give it some more credibility. This new wave of AI is a really, really big deal. It's as big a deal as the emergence of cloud or mobile or the internet or, Bill Gates compared it to the graphical user interface. So it's a really, really big deal. And that has implications for almost every piece of technology that we use in our daily professional and personal lives, almost everywhere in the world. That couldn't be better news for builders because it means for a builder, whatever she is most passionate about, that is the thing she should go build. Now, my home base is a little bit lower in the stack. I tend to think about new science and new engineering and distributed systems and how probabilistic models interact with deterministic database systems and the infrastructure that they like to host on. But even for me, I have spent a little bit of time at the application level. I spent some time with our investments in Runway ML, who do AI accelerated film editing, and with NumberStation, who do large language models for analytics. And in each of these areas, they work at the application level, but their founders are missionaries about that. They build products that their customers really care about. And critically, you need to push the underlying technology envelope in order to make those products possible. Plus, I'm a film nerd in the case of Runway. So the Uber message is that There are specific opportunities at each level of the stack, but for a founder who has to decide what it is she should spend the next 10 years or more of her life building, that is a question about what she is most passionate to do. Because I can say almost without knowing what is the opportunity, there is an opportunity somewhere in that area in AI.
And as an investor, you get approached by a lot of founders, I imagine, lots of different companies, all sorts of different areas. What are you looking for when you evaluate these founders or these founding teams?
Well, there's two things that I like to think about. The first is, how do you evaluate whether a company is going to have product market fit before they have a product? I like to meet these companies as early as possible, often before there's even a fully formed idea. And so how do you decide whether that's going to be a really big business? Well, you can know something about the arc of opportunity that these founders want to sail into and who are the customers there. And I talk about this expression that I learned from the writings of Michael Siebel, the hair on fire customer, where, Coral, if you see me on the street and my hair is physically on fire, you might have a bucket of cold water, and I'll love to have that. But if you don't, you may only have a tennis racket. And guess what? I will take the tennis racket and I'll beat myself over the head to put the fire out. And that is the kind of customer you want, because he or she is going to pull the right product out of you. And so one thing I look for is a hair on fire customer. The second is the founder market fit thing that I spoke about before, where this founder and her team need to be so passionate about the space that they're going to think more and differently about it than others do.
So wrapping up here, I have a couple just sort of quick hit questions for you. First, what are one or two must-read books that you recommend for founders?
There's two books that I really like. One that I've read about 1,000 times and one that I'm reading now. The first is only 100 pages, and it's also about 100 years old. It's called Night Flight, and it's about really early pilots before the age of radar and instruments who are trying to deliver mail more efficiently when it's really dangerous by flying at night. Now, I understand this is the book that inspired Bill Gates to create Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is how I learned about it. Gorgeous writing. But there's also some really powerful lessons to be learned about risk-taking and innovation with new technology, and even language. Here's a book about airplanes that was written before most people had been on a plane. And they're using nautical metaphors because they didn't have other language. And innovation is kind of like that. So that one is Night Flight by Antoine Saint-Exupéry. The second is a book I'm reading now, which is called Chip Wars. And Chip Wars is about the silicon layer that sits underneath all of this compute and all of this AI revolution. Intel, NVIDIA, Fairchild Semiconductor, TSMC, and the list goes on. And when we think about all these AI companies, we see there's only three scarce resources that they need to worry about. One is talent, one is data, and one is silicon. And the silicon is the most exhaustible of the three and the least understood. And it's really complicated. And you can even see some, not just technology movements around it, but geopolitical movements around it. And so I'm reading Chip Wars now so that I can better understand that part of the stack and how it affects all of us.
And so, second question, what's your favorite thing to do when you're not working, not at board meetings, not helping all these founders?
I have 3 young kids, a girl and 2 boys, so we have a lot of fun together. That takes up the most of my time. I mentioned I'm a film nerd before. I would include Prestige TV in that. Really, really high quality TV series. I love Succession. The third thing is we have an astronomer in my family, and so when we can, we travel to see eclipses, when and where in the world they happen. And that's been a magical thing to share with my family.
Jon, it's really been great to get to know you a little bit better. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this new Investor Spotlight episode of Founded and Funded.
Thanks, Coral.